Mr. President, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you.
Let me start right in. What happened last night?
Well, you had a situation that was very bad because the night before they shot down an unmanned drone. And the unmanned is a very big factor, the fact that there was not a person on it, a U.S. person on it, or anybody. And that had an impact on me. I said, well, you know, we got a little problem. And I think they did it on purpose because they understand that they will be hit very hard if that were a plane with a person in it. And I think they knew that there was nobody there. So we had a very, you know, modest but pretty heavy attack schedule.
And this was a pre-plan that you had, something that if they did something, you had something. These were sort of ready-made plans to use if necessary.
Oh, I have so many targets you wouldn't believe.
Right.
We have targets all over.
So did you green-light something, or had you said, if we do it, I'll do this? What was the order you gave?
Nothing is green-lighted until the very end because things change, right?
So you never gave a final order?
No. But we had something ready to go subject to my approval. And they came in, and they came in about a half an hour before. They said, sir, we're about ready to go. I said, I want a better
planes
definition.
In the air? Were planes in the air?
We're about ready to go.
Yeah.
No, but they would have been pretty soon. And things would have happened to a point where you wouldn't turn back or couldn't turn back. So they came and they said, sir, we're ready to go. We'd like a decision. I said, I want to know something before you go. How many people will be killed? In this case, Iranians. I said, how many people are going to be killed? Sir, I'd like to get back to you on that. Great people, these generals. They said, came back, said, sir, approximately 150. And I thought about it for a second, and I said, you know what? They shot down an unmanned drone, plane, whatever you want to call it, and here we are sitting with 150 dead people. That would have taken place probably within a half an hour after I said go ahead. And I didn't like it. I didn't think it was proportionate. Now, that doesn't mean...
So what should the response be right now?
I think the response should be, well, first of all, as you know, we've done very massive sanctions. We're increasing the sanctions now. But the response is always going to be very strong. I built up a lot of capital. I've had a lot of people that aren't Trump fans saying, I can't believe. You know, a lot of them said, we're going to be in World War III the first week. Didn't work out that way. We're doing great in North Korea. We're doing great in a lot of different places. We knocked out the caliphate in Syria. We knocked out 100%. Remember, I was going to leave
not
it...
100%. Not everybody says it's 100%.
The caliphate,
okay.
No, the caliphate, which is the land, the area,
fair enough,
is 100%. You never knock these people out. These people are stone cold crazy. And they'll walk into a store and they'll be wired up for bombs and they'll blow. It's a horrible thing. So I never say that. I don't want to do what other presidents have done or other people have done saying we won, because you don't win so conclusively. I would love to have the day where we can win. You know, I remember when I was young, I'd go on an airplane and I'd walk up, I'd buy a ticket, I'd go on a plane. Nobody thought about bombs and nobody thought about security. You'd walk in, you'd give the ticket to the person at the gate and you'd walk into a plane. Today it's like a big deal. So what happened is I said, I'm not going to do it. I'll save it. If they do something else, it'll be double.
You think they were trying to provoke you?
No, I don't think so. And I think it was very important that they, to them, don't forget, their economy...
You don't think they intended to get you to respond militarily?
Their economy is shattered. Shattered.
So what's the message?
Their inflation is through the roof. They've never had the highest in the world right now, worse than any place. They're living not well.
So put yourself in their shoes. What do you think message they're trying to send you with this?
I think they want to negotiate, and I think they want to make a deal, and my deal is nuclear. Look, they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. This isn't about the Straits. Do you know that China gets 91% of its oil from the Straits? We don't even need the Straits. We are now, because of, since I came in, we're the #1 energy producer in the world, okay? Actually, by far. And if I get the pipelines approved through the environmental process, which I will in Texas, we'll go up by another 25%. But we're way ahead of Russia. We're way ahead of Saudi Arabia. And I think that they want to negotiate. I don't think they like the position they're in. Their economy is absolutely broken.
So you sent a letter to the Ayatollah via Prime Minister Abe, and the Ayatollah seemed to say, I'm not talking to you.
I didn't send a letter.
What was the...
I didn't send a letter.
Was it a verbal message? What did Prime Minister Abe carry on
Prime
your
Minister
behalf?
Abe's a great guy. He's a friend of mine, and he obviously is close to them. I think he was their largest buyer of oil from before.
Did he deliver a message from you to them?
No, he wanted to do something.
Okay.
according to Prime Minister Abiy. They went to him, it's according to the Prime Minister, and they said, what do we do with Trump? Can we make a deal? Is there something that can be done? That's what Prime Minister Abiy told me. I said, do you mind if I say that if I have to? And he said, not particularly. So they came to Prime Minister Abiy. He then called me. I said, send the following message. You can't have nuclear weapons. And other than that, we can sit down and make a deal. But you cannot have
no other conditions
weapons.
other than that.
You cannot have nuclear weapons. And they would have had them with President Obama. He gave him $150 billion.
What is your deal? I understand. But what is your deal going to look like with them?
Let me explain something. Number one, you have to look at the sites. Some of the most important sites we weren't even allowed to look at or inspect, okay? Number two, the term was not long enough.
Okay.
There's like a short number of years left. After a very small number of years, he's talking about a country, after a very small number of years, they have a free pass to nuclear weapons. You can't do that. So I want to be able to inspect all sites. They cannot have ballistic missiles, which under the agreement isn't even covered. And as you know, that agreement wasn't even approved by Congress. A lot of people don't know that. That was an agreement that he couldn't get through Congress. He was not authorized really to do that deal.
Congress did give him some authorization to do it.
It wasn't ratified by Congress.
It wasn't a treaty.
It was very, very short of what it should have been. You know that.
Don't you think, though, does it at all tell, what does it tell you that the Iranians haven't violated the agreement yet? That they are trying hard not to violate this agreement?
Well, you see, I think they have violated the agreement because I think in the areas that we're not allowed to inspect, they're doing things. And I think they have been for years.
Europeans don't think they're violating the agreement.
I don't care about the Europeans. The Europeans are going out and making a lot of money. The Europeans are fine, but they're going out and making a lot of money. They're selling in France, they're selling cars to Iran, they're doing other things. And let me tell you, we're very good to Europe. We take care of them. NATO, we spend a tremendous amount of disproportionate amount on trade. The European Union's taken, they have really taken advantage of us for a long time. Just to finish, we have great relationships with Europe. I don't mind Europe getting in the middle. Europe wants to make a deal, too. Europe would love to see a deal be made.
These going to be separate deals? Do you want to do a separate deal with Iran, or do you want to get everybody involved in the same deal? Get the Russians, get the Chinese.
I don't care what kind of a deal. It can be separate, or it can be total.
But it's one-on-one talks, you and the Ayatollah? Is it one-on-one talks, you and the Ayatollah, or you and the president? It doesn't matter to me. You know, here's what I want. Anything that gets you to the result, they cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's not about the Straits. You know, a lot of people covered it incorrectly. They never mentioned. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. They'd use it, and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. Did you send a message last night? You know, Reuters is reporting that you sent a message to the Iranians saying, I don't want war. I want to talk.
I did not send that message. I did not send that message. I don't know who.
Okay.
I don't know who would have said that.
Send a message right now to the Ayatollah.
I mean, it's fake news.
Then send a message right now to the Ayatollah.
It wouldn't be much different than that message.
Which is?
I'm not looking for war. And if there is, it'll be obliteration like you've never seen before. But I'm not looking to do that. But you can't have a nuclear weapon. You want to talk good, otherwise you can have a bad economy for the next 3 years. Not as far as I'm concerned. No preconditions.
And you'll talk anyway?
Here it is. Look, you can't have nuclear weapons. And if you want to talk about it, good. Otherwise, you can live in a shattered economy for a long time to come.
Do you feel like you were being pushed into military action against Iran by any of your advisors?
I have two groups of people. I have doves and I have hawks.
Yeah, you have some serious hawks.
I have some hawks. Yeah, John Bolton is absolutely a hawk. It's up to him. He'd take on the whole world at one time, okay? But that doesn't matter because I want both sides. You know, some people said, why did you put, I was against going into Iraq for years and years. And before it ever happened, I was against going into Iraq. And some people said, oh, I don't know. I was totally against. And I was a private citizen. It never made sense to me. I was against going into the Middle East. Chuck, we've spent $7 trillion in the Middle East right now.
Why is this our problem? This is a proxy war. Iran and Saudi Arabia are in a fight to the death out there.
You're right. And that's another thing I've done.
Candidate Trump, for years, would have said, not our fight. Why are you involved?
Because of nuclear weapons. It has nothing to do with oil.
So the minute you get them to do nuclear weapons, you want out of the Middle East?
I don't care about, well, we're going to protect Israel, but I have nothing to do, absolutely nothing. And we're going to protect Saudi Arabia. Look, Saudi Arabia is buying $400 billion worth of things for us. That's a very good thing.
You used to say we don't get anything in return for protecting Saudi Arabia.
You know that
you feel like they're now paying for the American protection?
I spoke to the Crown Prince this morning, and we had a great conversation. I said, this is a very expensive operation. You and the other nations that we're protecting have to pay. And he said yes.
Did you talk to him about the UN report about Jamal Khashoggi?
I did not, because it really didn't come up in that discussion. I called about one reason.
I understand.
I called about one reason. I didn't call about that. I called about one reason. There's a very expensive operation, unlike President Obama and unlike everybody else. I'll say others too, not just President Obama. You got to pay for it. We cannot. We just don't want to go and protect the Middle East and protect Saudi Arabia and everyone else and not get reimbursed.
So this is why you're overruling Congress and letting all these weapon sales happen in Saudi Arabia?
Economic development. End that, but economic development.
Never mind the humanitarian disaster that's taken place in Yemen?
A million jobs. No, it's going to end. It's going to end. By the way, who's causing it, though? If you look at it, Iran goes into Yemen. They start firing rockets at Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has to protect themselves, Chuck. But it's a million jobs and probably more. They buy massive amounts, $150 billion worth of military equipment that, by the way, we use their military equipment. And unlike other countries that don't have money, and we have to subsidize everything, so Saudi Arabia is a big buyer of American product. That means something to me. It's a big producer of jobs.
It makes you overlook some of their bad behavior?
No, I don't like anybody's bad behavior.
The United Nations said they'd like the United States to order the FBI to investigate Jamal Khashoggi's death and possibly MBS's involvement in it. Will you allow the FBI to do that?
I think it's been heavily investigated.
By who?
By everybody. I mean, I've seen so many different reports.
What about the FBI?
Here's where I am. You ready? Mm-hmm. Iran's killed many, many people a day. Other countries in the Middle East, this is a hostile place. This is a vicious, hostile place. If you're going to look at Saudi Arabia, look at Iran, look at other countries, I won't mention names, and take a look at what's happening. And then you go outside of the Middle East and you take a look at what's happening with countries, okay? And I only say they spend $400 to $450 billion over a period of time. All money, all jobs, buying equipment.
That's the price. As long as they keep buying, you'll overlook some of this behavior.
But I'm not like a fool that says we don't want to do business with them. And by the way, if they don't do business with us, you know what they do? They'll do business with the Russians or with the Chinese. They will buy. We make the best equipment in the world, but they will buy great equipment from Russia and from China. Chuck?
Yeah.
Take their money. Take their money, Chuck.
What would candidate Trump have said about a president who on his watch had Iran shooting down a drone, a Venezuelan dictator thumbing his nose at you, Obamacare still on the books, and no results yet on the border getting
let's take a look.
I just said, what would candidate Trump have said about that?
Let's take a look. The border's doing great. Mexico's been fantastic. They've been trying to get a deal with Mexico for 45 years, right? So for 45 years, they couldn't get a deal. I got one in one day. I said, we're going to put tariffs on, and we're going to either have a deal or not. We agreed in one day. Mexico just moved 6,000 people to their southern border, 6,000 troops to their southern border. The border's working out well, and the wall is being built. I mean, a lot of people don't like to talk about it. We're building the wall. We will have 400 miles of wall built by the end of next year. And that's hard because the Democrats don't want to approve it. We just beat them in a big lawsuit, as you know, in Washington and D.C. We just beat them in a very big lawsuit.
Does it frustrate you that your border numbers are worse than Obama's?
No, because the people are coming up because our economy is so good. They're pouring up because the economy is so good. Obama had a lousy economy. It was a dead economy.
Can I ask you about that?
Our economy is
Let me show you
great.
this chart. Do you see that chart?
Yeah.
It's the unemployment rate from the peak of the recession.
Right.
Your economy is great. I'm not saying it's not great. But this recovery started, and in the 28 months that you've been president, and the last 28 months of Obama's presidency, he averaged more new jobs than your first
That's
28
because
months.
he started off with such a bad base.
Okay.
I mean, he hits.
But is it not a continuation?
Yeah, but Chuck, you have to understand. Nobody was working. The whole place was a disaster, and I'd never take that away.
Okay.
But it's very easy.
All right.
Because when that turned around, they pumped a tremendous amount of money into the economy. He also had a Federal Reserve person who kept the interest rates low. I don't. I don't
Sounds
have
like
that
you do now.
privilege.
Do you feel like you have?
No.
Do you feel like you have sent?
He raised them far too fast.
The threat.
He raised them far too fast.
Your threat to demote him. Do you think that's had an impact?
I didn't ever threaten to demote him.
There's been some talk that you might demote him to the number 2 slot.
I'd be able to do that if I wanted, but I haven't suggested that.
That's not a threat. That's just a reminder that you can.
No, I have the right to do that, but I haven't said that. What he's done is $50 billion a month in quantitative tightening. That's ridiculous. What he's done is he raised interest rates too fast.
Do you worry he's going to hurt your re-election?
I think the economy is so strong we're going to bull through it. But I'm not happy with his actions. No, I don't think he's done a good job. I think this, if he didn't raise rates, Obama had very low rates. So Obama was playing with funny money. I wasn't. I'm playing with the real stuff.
Let me ask you this.
Wait. Obama had somebody that kept the rates very low. I had somebody that raised the rates very rapidly, too much. He made a mistake. That's been proven. And yet my economy is phenomenal. We have now the best economy maybe in the history of our country. Just to finish off, when I took over, this country, the economy, was ready to collapse. You take a look at the numbers. It was ready to collapse. And if I didn't win...
I just showed you the numbers. It was not ready to collapse.
You showed me unemployment numbers.
That was unemployment. It wasn't ready to collapse.
Excuse me. Take a look at your GDP. Take a look at your jobs. Take a look at your optimism. Take a look at all of the charts. When I took over, from election day on, I mean, you show me one chart where I did well in that too, but I'm not talking about that. Take a look at some of the optimism charts and everything else. It went from 57 to 92. Nobody's ever seen anything that right after I won.
Optimism, you're right.
Well, optimism is a big part of success in business.
You were always hard on Obama. You thought he wasn't enough of a cheerleader.
He was not a cheerleader.
If you could have one do-over as president, what would it be?
Well, it would be personnel. I would say if I had one do-over, it would be I would not have appointed Jeff Sessions to be Attorney General. That would be my one.
That in your mind,
that was the big.
Is Bill Barr your Roy Cohn?
He should have never. I think he's a very talented, very.
Do you know what I mean by that? You've always said, "Where's my Roy Cohn?" Is he your Roy Cohn?
You have to say Roy Cohn, but I had many lawyers. I mean, a lot of lawyers. Roy was one of them. He was a tough guy. Yeah. Bill Barr is first of all.
Is he cut from the same cloth, you think?
Bill Barr is he's equally tough. He's a fine man. He's a fine man. The job he's done is incredible. He's brought sanity back. I think he's real. I know. He's respected. You know, he loves the Department of Justice. He saw what was happening. He has done a spectacular job. Now he's in the process of doing something, and I stay away from it. I stay away from it. But I think he feels that what's happened in this country was a very bad thing, and very bad for our country.
I want to ask what's going down with the children in these migrant camps. The stories are horrible, Mr. President. You have children without their parents. You have kids taking care of kids.
Yeah.
You've read these reports. I know people are coming to you. I know you think this is the Democrats' problem.
Well,
forget it. Why aren't you doing some of it?
Are you ready?
They are in terrible shape down there, Mr. President. Down in Homestead, Florida, that's where I grew up. The conditions are terrible.
I agree. And it's been that way for a long time.
Do something.
And President Obama built the cages. Remember when they said that I built them, and then it was 1914.
Do two wrongs make a right?
It was 2014. Chuck, just listen for 1 second. Separation. President Obama, I took over separation. I'm the one that put it together. What's happened, though, are the cartels and all of these bad people. They're using the kids. It's almost like slavery.
Well, let's not punish the kids more.
This has been happening.
The kids are getting punished more.
You're right, and this has been happening long before I got there. What we've done is we've ended separation. You know, under President Obama, you had separation. I was the one that ended it. Now, I said one thing. When I ended it, I said, here's what's going to happen. More families are going to come up, and that's what's happened. But they're really coming up for the economics. But once you ended the separation, but I ended separation. I inherited separation from President Obama. President Obama built, they call them jail cells. They were built.
Let's talk about what's happening now. Your administration, you're not doing the recreation, you're not even schooling these kids anymore. You've gotten rid of all that stuff.
We're doing a fantastic job under the circumstances. The Democrats aren't even approving giving us money. Where is the money? You know what? The Democrats are holding up the humanitarian aid.
It looks like these kids are being used as some sort of, is it hostage?
Well, they are being used. They are being used by very bad people on the other side, where they actually get paid. Money is being made using them because our laws are so bad. Because if you have a child, you have an advantage. You know that better than anybody. And what should happen?
But why let the political debate hurt these children? They could be impacted for years.
If the Democrats would change the asylum laws and the loopholes, which they refuse to do because they think it's good politics, everything would be solved immediately. But they refuse to do it. They refuse to do it. You know what? If they changed, as I say, I used to say 45 minutes, it's 15 minutes. If they changed asylum and if they changed loopholes, everything on the border would be perfect.
Let me ask you this. Why do you think Nancy Pelosi has held off her impeachment caucus?
Because I think she feels that I will win much easier. I mean, I've been told that by many people.
Do you think impeachment's good politics for you?
I think I win the election easier, but, you know, I'm not sure that I like having it. Look, I did nothing wrong. I was spied on. What they did to me was illegal. It was illegal on the other side. I did nothing wrong. So impeachment's a very unfair thing because nothing that I did was wrong. And if you look at the Mueller report, there was no collusion. This was all about collusion.
Nowhere in the Mueller report. By the way, Mr. Rizzo, you say no collusion. There is not a single. I've read this Mueller report. Both parts of it.
Use the word collusion.
There's not one place that says nothing happened.
Use the word collusion. Use the word conspiracy.
Never says no collusion.
I'll be honest with you. Nobody even mentions Russia anymore since the Mueller report. They don't mention it, in all fairness. Nobody mentions Russia anymore. And it was about Russia. It was a hoax.
Let me ask you this. During the campaign.
Wait. We'll give you the time you need.
What hoax it was?
It was a hoax. The Russian hoax with me.
You don't believe it happened?
I had nothing to do.
You don't believe the Russians interfered in our
election? What they did
elections?
with respect to the election is different. We're not talking about that. We're talking about
the idea
my
that you were
campaign
conspiring.
Working is
Fair
a
enough.
hoax. Okay, good.
But going back on WikiLeaks, knowing now that that was stolen foreign material, do you regret using it?
Well, I wouldn't have, but this was well known. I think it was in papers. And again, I'm going back now a long ways, but
it was
I
all
think
rumored to be
in
Russian stolen property. So why'd you use it?
How would I even know that? I made a speech. It was in there about WikiLeaks. I'm not a WikiLeaks
But I'm saying, knowing
person.
now, knowing that they are a Russian intelligence asset,
okay.
Do you regret it?
Let me tell you, WikiLeaks, etc. That's not my deal in life. You know, in other words, I don't know about WikiLeaks. It was a strange name. But there were stories about something WikiLeaks that they had information. And I say it in a joking manner at his speech, joking, everybody laughing, everybody having a good joke, and they made it like it was serious. No, I don't want anything bad to happen to our country. Anything bad happens to this country, I will end it, and I'll end it fast. I don't want any of that to happen.
There's one part in the Mueller report. Your son, Donald Trump Jr., did cooperate and appeared before the Senate Intelligence Committee. In the Mueller report, it says that he did not voluntarily sit for an interview with Mueller's team. And then there's a redaction, a grand jury redaction. Did he involuntarily sit?
I don't know. I can only tell you this.
Is it possible he was subpoenaed by the
I really don't know.
You don't know if he was subpoenaed.
But let me tell you what I do.
So did you not
know.
read the Mueller report?
Let me tell you, I read much of it.
The unredacted version or no?
I read, no, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. But let me just tell you.
So if he was
you know
subpoenaed,
what I read? I read the conclusion.
If he was subpoenaed, you wouldn't know?
I read the conclusion.
Okay.
Well, he was subpoenaed. Ultimately, he was subpoenaed to sit before the Senate Intel.
But was he?
And he did that.
Was he subpoenaed by Mr. Mueller?
I don't know, but I don't think so.
If he was subpoenaed, was he going to appear before the grand jury, or was he just going to plead the fifth?
I really don't know, but you can certainly ask him.
But you
I just
don't know.
It was, he sat, my son, he's been treated so unfairly. He sat for many, many hours before these committees. I think, my impression is that Mueller took all of the information from the committees and he used that information. How much can you talk about something where, remember the phone calls, the 3 phone calls? It was such a big deal, 3 phone calls that were made to a special type number. Yeah. Okay, and everybody said, oh, he called his father, that went on for a year. In other words, before this so-called meeting and after the meeting. He called his father, the biggest story, headlines all over the place. And then it turned out, and I give Mueller credit, because Mueller was the one that found out through, I guess, the phone companies or whatever. Somebody found out, maybe through the FBI. Big investigation on who the calls were made. If they were made to me, it would have sounded like you. Wait a minute. They turned out that it wasn't to me. It was to a real estate person and a NASCAR person. 2 great people. Have nothing to do with Russia. Have nothing to do. And you know what? People hardly even put the story in. My son was treated unfairly. My son, he spent 20-some-odd hours, and then he went back again. He is a very innocent young man, and he was treated very badly.
You're going to see Vladimir Putin in a week.
Yes.
I'm going to address him directly about interference in 2020? Are you going to tell him not to do it?
I may. If you'd like me to do it, I'll do that.
Well, some people think that your answer last week invited him to do it again.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true.
Are you going to tell him not to?
My answer last week was both. I said both. I do both. Except they didn't put it on. And when they did put it on, people understood. But they didn't put it on because they put a different segment on. So they asked me a question. But when I said, yeah, do both, people saw that in the last version of it because the thing played like all weekend and on Friday. So it's just more fake news. Chuck, there's so much fake news. It would be so good.
That's why I'm interviewing when I want.
That's fine. That's why I like.
Let me ask you this.
That's why I like. But I like live interviews better. You know why? Because you can't cut the answers.
Guess what? You're going to enjoy the fact that I'm not going to over-edit this interview. That I promise you. Do you think you've been more successful in business or the presidency?
I think, well, I can't be more successful in politics. I mean, I ran once and I'm president, right? So you have to say that's about, there's nothing, it's never happened before, right? So I'm 1 for 1, and I hope to be 2 for 2. But my business has been a tremendous success. I actually said to the lawyers, I'd like to show my financial statement. My financial statement is great. I built a great business.
Release your tax returns
I
any
actually
day
don't
you
believe.
want.
You don't learn from tax returns, and I'm under audit, Chuck. I've been saying it. I'm under audit, but you don't learn from tax returns.
I was under audit.
But you would learn from
returns.
a financial statement, and I would like to release it. I've built a great company. They like to, for instance, banks. I could have borrowed from banks, but I didn't need to because I had money. I did things. In fact, a lot of people over the last couple of years were really surprised. He paid all cash. He didn't use banks. I think I've been tremendously successful in business. I think I've been tremendously successful in show business with The Apprentice. I mean, I did one show, and it was a great hit, as you know, from NBC.
Yes, sir.
And I guess you have to say I've been really successful in politics.
The Republican Party has changed in your image. Do you think you caused that change, or do you think the party was changing and you were the leader they selected?
I think common sense caused it. You know, I'm about common sense. People say, are you conservative? I guess I'm conservative, but I'm about common sense. I'm about, we need borders. We're going to have borders, and we have strong borders. And by the way, Mexico has done a great job. It's slowed down so much. But we have an amazing economy, and people want to come up, but it's slowed down so much. But I'm about borders. I'm about great health care. Obamacare is a disaster. I got rid of the individual mandate.
Why is the economy doing so well if Obamacare is still law of the land? You had said in 2011,
we are managing.
Obamacare is going to destroy the economy. Obamacare's still
because
here and the
I've
economy's
managed it great. I had a choice. I could have let it implode and killed it, or I could have managed
to kill it. Why are you still trying to kill it with the getting rid of pre-existing? If this lawsuit that the Department of Justice joined, it could get rid of coverage of pre-existing conditions.
I am in favor of pre-existing conditions.
So drop the lawsuit.
We will.
So drop your aspect of the lawsuit.
It has nothing to do with it. The lawsuit is one thing. We are going to put in a bill, total pre-existing conditions, and the Republicans are in favor of pre-existing conditions.
Full Republican control, and they couldn't pass anything.
Chuck,
what makes you think they're going to get it done this time?
We had a negative vote from John McCain. It was a surprising vote, but I got rid of the worst part of Obamacare, which was the individual mandate.
Okay.
We will always protect pre-existing conditions, and the reason Obamacare continues is my decision. Wait, I made a big decision.
Okay.
We have a man named Azar, our secretary. He's a fantastic man, Alex, a total pro. I could have managed Obamacare so it would have failed, or I could have managed it the way we did, so it's as good as it can be. Not great, but it's as good. It's too expensive. The premiums are too high. I had a decision to make. I could have politically killed Obamacare. I decided not to do it. But still, it's not good. We're going to come up with great health care if we win the House, the Senate, and the presidency.
You prepared to lose?
No, probably not. Probably not. It would be much better. It would be much better if I said, yeah.
It
would be much easier for me to say, well, yes. No, I'm probably not too prepared to lose. I don't like losing. I haven't lost very much.
You didn't
in my
like
life.
the fact that you lost the popular vote. That bothered you, didn't it?
Well, I think it was I'll say something that, again, is controversial. There were a lot of votes cast that I don't believe. I look at California.
Mr. President.
Excuse me.
But that's it.
Take a look at Judicial Watch. Take a look at their settlement, where California admitted to 1 million votes. They're admitted to 1 million votes.
1 million votes of what?
Take a look at
What are you talking about?
Judicial Watch made a settlement. There was much.
About what?
There was much illegal voting. But let me tell you about popular vote. Do you have a second?
Yes, because you were a big fan of it.
Well,
until you
I like
weren't.
popular vote.
Yeah.
I think I'd do better with a popular vote. But I didn't campaign for the popular vote. You didn't see me campaigning in California or New York. If it was up to the popular vote, I would have done, I think, even better. I won 306 to 223, which was a lot, in the Electoral College. But it's like you're training for the 100-yard dash versus the mile.
No, you're totally right.
Totally
if
different.
It's a popular vote, you campaign
I went to
differently.
Wisconsin.
I don't disagree.
She forgot. I went to Michigan. She didn't go to Michigan enough. I won Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. I won places that she didn't do a good job. What can I tell you? No, maybe I did a great job. You know, I never get credit for that. They always say she was a lousy candidate. I actually think that Hillary Clinton was a great candidate. She was very smart. Yeah. She was very tough. She was ruthless and vicious.
You'd rather run against her again, wouldn't you? You only talked about her in your announcement speech. You spent a lot of time talking about her.
No, I would actually rather run against Biden. I think that would be my preference.
Why?
Sleepy Joe. He's sleepy. She was not sleepy. Let me just tell you something. The Electoral College is tougher for a Republican to win than the popular vote, at least me. I feel that I'd go to 3 places. I went to 19 or 21 states. I went to Maine 4 times because I wanted to get 1, and I did get it. And that's the beauty of the Electoral College. You know, I've been a proponent of the other sometimes, and I change. But I will tell you, the Electoral College brings you to many of the states in this country.
You have joked about a 3rd term. You've joked about these
I
things.
Only joke.
Okay.
I joke and I say, watch, I will drive Chuck Todd crazy.
Okay. You will.
Yes. There
you
will
will
be
accept the result, and you will
100%.
accept whatever happens in 2020. You lose.
Sure.
You'll be like, you're not going to like it, but you walk out.
In fact, I said at a speech recently, I said, watch, we'll drive the media crazy. Let's go for a 3rd term and then a 4th. And some of the media said, he is going to do it.
Speaking of driving people crazy, when you were asked about Mike Pence in 2024, and you paused a minute about endorsing him as your successor, that got a lot of people going, is Mike Pence 100% on your ticket in 2020?
Well, look, 100%, yes.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
There is no wiggle room.
He's been a terrific vice president. He's my friend and a lot of things. No, zero.
So why'd you hesitate in endorsing him?
Because it was a surprise question. I mean, I'm not even thinking of it. It's so far out. Okay. I mean, it's so far out. That would be the only reason. Now, what happens in 2024? I don't know that Mike is going to run. I don't know who's running or anything else. I will say this. I think it's a tremendous embarrassment to Joe Biden that Obama has not, that President Obama, I'd like to say that because it's respect for the office and respect for him.
Do you speak to any of the former presidents?
Yes.
Who's the last one you did?
Well, I speak to Bush. I speak to Jimmy Carter.
You do? What about President Obama?
I have not spoken to him.
But George W. Bush,
pretty
you
much
do,
from the beginning.
and Jimmy Carter?
I have spoken to Bush. I have spoken to Jimmy Carter, yes.
Yeah. You get, why?
I like Jimmy Carter. You know, Jimmy Carter's oftentimes come to my defense.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with the way he ran things, and that's okay, and he understands that, and so do I, but he came to my defense on numerous occasions, and he thinks that I was treated the worst of anybody he's ever seen by the press.
During every new season of The Apprentice, you had something new to roll out. What's your big new idea for your re-election?
I think that the economy has tremendous upward potential, despite the fact that we're doing really well. I think when we really unleash some of the things that we're going to do.
What is the new big idea?
I also think that health care is going to be very important for me. I will tell you, if we win the House, the Senate, and the presidency, I will get tremendous health care. Because Obamacare is a disaster.
Do you think Democrats won the House because of health care?
I think they won because of pre-existing condition. Yeah. Nothing to do with me, because if you know, almost every race that I campaigned for somebody, they won. Yeah. But I couldn't devote too much time to the House. There's too many people. But if you look at some of the congressmen that I did go for and went for it, they won, like in Kentucky, et cetera, et cetera.
So your one new idea is going to be health care.
Ohio governor, he was behind, great guy. Mike won. Georgia, President Obama was there, Oprah was there, Michelle Obama was there. It was going to be a big celebration. She was the star of the party. I went there. For Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp won. Florida, Ron DeSantis. He was going to lose. He was low in the polls. I endorsed him. He went up 60 points after I endorsed him. Ron won, and he's been a great governor of Florida. You know, I've always heard that an endorsement is nice to have, but it doesn't mean anything. I'm driving people up 30, 40, 50, 60%.
Well, when you show up, you bring a lot of people.
We bring something very good.
I'm curious, did you see Jon Stewart's pretty passionate plea on behalf of 9/11 response?
I was very impressed, yes.
Are you going to... He's frustrated with Mitch McConnell. He feels like Mitch McConnell's the guy standing in the way of this bill. You're a New Yorker first. I know that in you. I got to think Jon Stewart got to you.
Well...
Are you going to tell Mitch McConnell to...
I liked what Jon Stewart did. I actually did. And I actually have a meeting on that subject next week. So we'll see what happens. So
you
know, it's a very complicated subject.
I understand that it is,
okay?
but
I have a meeting.
You think that Jon Stewart had a point that Congress hadn't done enough?
I have a meeting on that subject with, well, when you say Congress, billions of dollars has been paid.
I understand that.
Okay, billions.
Right. But the fund was about
memorials have been built. Tremendous amounts of money. but there are still people that are sick. I have a meeting on it next week.
All right, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.